Job interviews are hard, and salary negotiation is, I think, one of the hardest parts about a job interview. And I want to talk to you about a tip that I just learned yesterday because I think it is very important. I'm for sure going to apply this in the future whenever I have a job interview, and I just wanted to share it with you in case you also have a job interview and you don't feel super comfortable when you are talking about money and you are talking about finances. So as mentioned, if you don't feel very confident and very relaxed when you're talking about money and the money that you want to earn and demand from the company that you are having an interview with, there's a big chance that you might fall into the trap of pronouncing a lower number than what will actually make you happy in the end. So this is something very common. I have done this in the past so many times. There is also the miscalculation when you are kind of in that excitement of having a new job interview and you don't exactly know what to expect from the company that you're interviewing with, and you're unsure how much is okay to request from them. This is always the case. You go ahead and search for the averages on Google, on Glassdoor. You ask friends. You try to benchmark it with other people, and you try to arrive at a number in your mind before you enter the interview. However, when the time actually comes, it is still sometimes difficult to actually talk about the real value, the real money that you think you should be getting. And sometimes we give up on our expectations, and just by judging the conversation or because of that excitement of the moment, instead of saying 10,000, let's say, we go ahead and say 7,000 because we think that it is more acceptable and that it will increase your chance of getting that job. This is a huge mistake, and I have done it in the past. I have agreed on a salary that was lower than my expectation, that a number that would not make me happy in the end. So think about it in the long term. Yesterday something happened, and I'm gonna share this story, and then that'll be over because you will get the message from that story. Yesterday I was working in the business center of our building, and I overheard a conversation. Even though I had my headphones on, I overheard a conversation that another guy was having in the same room, and he was probably a senior level manager at one of the big audit companies. So he was interviewing for a senior level job at another company, but the important part about his conversation was when it was time for him to talk about the money and the expectations. I didn't obviously hear if the person who he was talking to asked what his expectation was, but he all of a sudden started to talk about money, and his explanation really struck my attention, and I really paid attention to it. So how he explained his expectation was, he said if he stays in his current company, within 3 to 5 years, he will reach a certain position. He will have a certain position in his current company, and he will have he will be promised a certain range of salary plus a bonus. So he already knows within the next 3 to 5 years what his potential will be in his current role. And so he was not comparing his today's salary to what tomorrow's salary would be at the next company that he's interviewing, but instead he's talking about it in a longer term. He talks about it in the next 3 to 5 years, and that just clicked something in my head, and that is just super smart, because if you stay in your current company, the difference is not that you're just getting the current salary that you have, but you have been working there for some time, and there is more potential for growth for you in your current company, which means that you might get a different title. in the next year or in the next 3 to 5 years, your salary might increase significantly. You might get a bonus, you might get stock options, so on and so forth. So your conditions in your current role will also change, and that is something very important to take into account, because I noticed that when we're in the salary negotiation part of the interviews, we tend to talk about our current today's role and today's salary and compare it with what we want when we move to the next destination. And that is a very short-sighted way of speaking about it and seeing this, because when you switch your role, your expectation ideally is to stay there for a little while, and therefore you need to be thinking about your longer term. I mean, 3 to 5 years isn't very long term, but it's still longer than thinking about today and tomorrow. So that is the tip I wanted to share with you. Think about your goals in the longer term or midterm, but don't, when you are talking about salary negotiations, when you're talking about your salary expectation, don't just compare it to today and tomorrow and say you want a 10% increase or you want a 20% increase, etc. Compare your future in your current role and company to your future and potential in that company that you are interviewing with. And that's the short message of this video. I hope you find this helpful, and I hope you apply this to your salary negotiations, and hope that it actually brings you bigger value than what you're currently negotiating for or discussing about. So that's all. See you in the next video. Bye bye.